My name is D. Lanier Shook, and I am the Information Collector. Today I'm coming to you from the Folk Art Center on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Before I begin this week's broadcast, I have to pause and extend my sympathy to the British royal family for the loss of Prince Phillip, who was gathered to his people this week. There is a special relationship between America and Britain, and I believe that I speak for many of us as we offer our deep condolences to both the royal family and to the British people. We are so sorry. Prince Philip not only was a longtime consort of Her Majesty, but he was a member of the greatest generation. And he served his people and his commonwealth, his empire, his king, and all of humanity in a time when we needed it. And we mourn his passing. This is an amazing treasure of Western North Carolina, and whether or not you explore the parkway, you should come to the Folk Art Center. They have an amazing collection of folk arts that are surprising in their quality and variety. They also have rotating exhibits from throughout the area, which are equally amazing. And don't forget to check out their gift shop, where you can purchase handmade items, which some of them are from literally very local artists, like right down the road. And they make incredible gifts. And one item I discovered was their library. If you're doing research, the library here at the Folk Art Center is an indispensable resource. So look into it. I have not been there in nearly 2 years, but when I went, the scope of the information that they had was fascinating. And for anyone doing research, it's a perfect place to start. Last Wednesday, Canada's Natural Resource Office issued a press release announcing the construction of a new mass timber office building in downtown Vancouver. The Member of Parliament for Burnaby North Seymour announced nearly $1 million in a grant to support ON5's 4-story office building, which will house Equilibrium Consulting. This is funding from Natural Resources Canada's Green Construction Through Wood program. It will go up at the intersection of Ontario and East 5th Avenue in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. Now, this is a really interesting concept. We haven't seen this in a while, but we're moving back toward wood construction. Perhaps the last time we saw this in a big way was the Second World War, because we had needed strategic materials. The British Mosquito fighter bomber was actually built from wood. We're talking here about cross-laminated timber panels, and basically plywood on steroids. These are, quote, energy efficient, comfortable, affordable, and ecological at the same time, end quote. They have encouraged them for use in low-rise, non-residential buildings, tall wood buildings, and bridges. Seamus O'Regan, the Minister of Natural Resources for Canada, said this supports forestry jobs and gets us to net zero, because the trees have pretty much already been built. You just have to assemble the God does the manufacturing and we do the assembling. Now we're talking about here cross-laminated timber, but this is not new. In fact, there are some people who believe on good authority that Noah's Ark was made of basically laminated wood. Gopher wood could be translated laminated wood, plywood. Lacquer is basically the same thing, and we've seen this trend throughout history. In fact, lacquer has a Sanskrit origin. So basically, this is the old is new again. Last Friday, Canada's Natural Resources Office announced $1 million would be invested in Bosque Bio products as part of their Bioplastics Challenge. This is a small-scale production of a compostable bioplastic made from forest biomass. The company is also producing a new bioplastic from paper mill sludge and wood residue. And this bioplastic will be usable for 3D printing, food packaging, plastic bottles, and other resources. And I have to say, this reminds me of a product that the male protagonist in my first romance novel, Weekend in Waynesville, came up with. It has been a busy week in the Pacific, and as certain Pacific powers push further out into the Pacific, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command is making it clear that we aren't going anywhere. Last Wednesday, in a press release, they announced the Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group had conducted a bilateral exercise with the Royal Malaysian Air Force. The aircraft carrier CVN-71 and Carrier Air Wing 11 engaged in dissimilar air combat training with the Malaysians. Captain Michael Langben, commander of the Carrier Air Wing 11, said, quote, "Much like iron sharpens iron, the high-end exercises with the Royal Malaysian Air Force enable us to learn from each other and provide realistic training in the air." Back in December, I mentioned that we had evacuated troops from Somalia. And one reason I mentioned it was the preponderance of firepower we put off Somalia. And I referred to it as being similar in equivalent to what was off D-Day in Overlord. Well, the USS Somerset, which is a landing ship, was off Somalia then with the Woody Williams, a dock platform ship. Well, this past week, last Monday, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command released a press announcement that the Somerset was involved with a true multinational effort. It was part of a multi-navy exercise. involving ships from Australia, France, India, and Japan in an exercise that emphasized collaboration, warfighting, integration, maritime superiority, power projection, and readiness in a dynamic theater. You know, you'd almost think there was some superpower in the area pushing out into the Pacific. The Somerset provided UH-1Y Venom helicopters of the Marine Medium Tilt Rotor Squadron 164 of the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit for the exercise. These were involved in maritime maneuvering exercises, air defense operations, and live fire exercises. Now, as far as the Indo-Pacific Command goes, they obviously are watching a lot of nations. And last Tuesday, they issued a press release making this clear. They said that recent Russian activity in the Arctic has not gone unnoticed. John F. Kirby, Pentagon spokesperson, said, quote, "Without getting into specific intelligence assessments, obviously we're monitoring it very closely," end quote. In recent times, Russia has been refurbishing coastal defense infrastructure and ramping up their ability to deny access to the area. Now, this photograph I'm about to show you is about 7 years old. No, 5 years old. It's from Ice Exercise 2016. And it is the USS Hartford, a Los Angeles-class submarine in operations in the Arctic. So we are keeping an eye on the Pacific. Last Monday, Millennium Challenge Corporation issued a press release concerning a water compact in Mongolia. Millennium Challenge Corporation is actually a U.S. government agency. They do work around the globe. For example, here's one picture of something they've done not in Mongolia. This $350 million Mongolian water compact is intended to ameliorate an impending water crisis in Mongolia's capital, Ulaanbaatar. Ulaanbaatar has tripled in size since the 1980s. Now, the Millennium Challenge Corporation is actually a U.S. government agency. This compact has conditions attached to it, and to a degree, they're working with Russian partners. Last Wednesday, Chevron announced an agreement with the Sapporo Japan's Hokkaido Gas Limited. This is a utility company in the Sapporo, Japan region. They provide gas, electricity, and other utilities to the area. This is a sales and a purchase agreement in which Chevron will supply 500,000 tons of liquid natural gas to the Hokkaido Gas Limited over the next 5 years.